All right, so I think we're live. How's it going? I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple different things. I want to talk about content marketing. I want to talk about getting a bunch of stuff done. So let me throw a few things at you and let me know what you think. If you're viewing on the stream, whether it's live, whether it's on the recording, whatever, make sure you go in those comments and say hi. I promise I won't bite. So real quick, something that's sort of like a weird productivity trick, and it's something that I haven't done in a while, is something called a Camtasia babysitter. And basically, it just means that like I'm right here right now doing some stuff. Just record yourself doing the thing that you haven't been getting around to doing, right? Especially if it only takes you 10, 20 minutes. Maybe you're sending out some emails or you're fixing up a website. I know that for me, just that a whole process of going back and like improve, like kind of beefing things up and making little details, it's sort of discouraging for me, right? It's more exciting for me to make a new blog from scratch or make a new blog post, and for me to have to say, all right, well, let me bring up my blog and let me like change up the sidebar or something, right? Like if I pull this up, if I was like, oh, maybe I'll add my picture, maybe I'll kind of fix, for some reason, maybe I need to increase the font size on this title because at some point the title got kind of jacked up, right? And that's all just like, it feels like a waste of time for me, right? Even though it's only 10 minutes, it's only 20 minutes, it's just one of those little tasks that it's like I've spent more time thinking about it than doing it. And so the answer is to record myself doing it. And the thing that I am going to be doing after hopping off this live stream is I'm going to be hopping onto our help desk. We have a couple of people in there who answer tickets, but sometimes there are things that just get passed up to me, and I kind of have to knock those out. And so that is what I'm going to be doing. And that help desk kind of runs on its own. But then when I have to kind of jump in there, especially in the middle of the week, I sort of don't always feel like doing it. And recording myself doing it is a way to make sure that I don't waste a bunch of time. I close down Windows, I focus on that single task at hand, and I get it done very quickly. So Camtasia Babysitter just means that you record the 10 to 20 minute thing that you've been putting off. And I've noticed that this works only if you use it sparingly, right? Because if you use it too much, if you're like constantly recording what you're doing, then you just end up not really taking it seriously. And it's almost like that camera recording. It's like it replicates that effect of someone looking over your shoulder. And so I sort of just kind of wanted to throw that out there. And so the next thing I want to move on to is this thing called content marketing, right? Because, I mean, what's the point of us doing all this stuff if it doesn't actually, bring things back into our business? So content marketing. And a lot of people think that this means, writing or guest blog posting. And those are all sort of the goodies, the nice to haves, but that's super time intensive, right? And what I'd rather do is I want to do the things that I can just get some tools in place. I can just get things cranking on their own. And so writing, I mean, content marketing doesn't always mean writing. Sometimes I write. And so my secret for writing these days, and this is new for me, is to use my iPhone and to use Evernote. And so this is sort of a weird sort of thing to recommend. But I basically, I go on walks and stuff, right? And once I get sort of out of the city, or at least away from people's driveways, then I can sort of have my phone out and I can read stuff, right? And I can just read a little bit at a time or listen to a podcast. And a lot of people don't just take the time to walk or things like that. And so like, but I have to get out of the city first a little bit or get to a walking path. Otherwise, I'm worried about people backing their cars out of their driveways on me. So I just kind of have my phone out and I'll have like a Kindle book and I'll read maybe 10 pages, then put it away, enjoy my walk. I'll be walking a little bit. If I have an idea, I'll pull up my phone and I'll type just a sentence in Evernote in the app, and then I'll come home if you don't use Evernote, it's a great way to basically type something on your phone. You get home, you get on the computer, and then you can kind of just pull that out there. And so I get a lot of my writing done, and I'll get like an article started or an article finished or the middle part or whatever part I'm stuck. If I'm stuck, making it, if I'm just like at home or I'm on my desk or I'm in my office here at the computer trying to get it working, I'll get out of the house, I'll take my phone with me, and I'll just get past that little bit of a hump. And so sometimes I'll do some of that writing. What I've noticed though is even when I do writing, I'll beef it up a little bit and I'll record a podcast narration. So what that means is I'll pull up my blog again. So we have like all these, oh, I might have to go further back to find this. But we have all these different like interviews, right? And if I go far enough back, I'll eventually run into a post that I wrote myself, and I'll run into a post that I wrote first. So I mean, a lot of the times people think in terms of like, oh, I'll like sit down and I'll speak out whatever's on my mind. I mean, like we're doing here, and then I'll get it transcribed. But a lot of people are afraid of transcription. They don't want to spend the money. They don't want to edit it. They don't want to wait. I guess that makes sense. And sometimes, like, sometimes I just want to write instead of speaking, right? And so I'll write it first. So here's the example. So this was so this is about membership sites, and I wrote, and this was just something I wrote, and I think this is the thing I wrote on the phone using Evernote. So I wrote that, and then afterwards I said, well, you know what? I want to get a podcast episode in the can for free. Right? I want to get a little bit more reach on this post. And so what I did was I just pulled open this blog post, What's Happening, Mr. Gaurav Paul. I pulled open this blog post and I just started speaking it out on this exact same headset, on the exact same thing, and put it up as a podcast episode. So I'm always looking for like what's something I could, a little bit of a boost that I can get from my blog post. So anyway, as far as getting the content on that blog, either write stuff and narrate it, or speak stuff out and get it transcribed or whatever. Or you know what? For a lot of these, I mean, I do so many interviews that I don't even transcribe it. I just have the audio. It's in there. There's a little bit of a show notes that gets the job done. So I mean, the first thing is like you should be putting something out there every few days. And if you don't know what to put out there, then hire some content or do some interviews or something. And once you have the content out there, well, now we need people to know about it, right? And so a couple things about that is if you don't have stuff coming out there every day, then it can't hurt to just send a quick email reminder. And I think that this is a really important sort of state of mind to be in when we're talking about email marketing. A lot of people say, well, I can't email every day or I can't email super often. But if you think in terms of a reminder, right, or that you're just trying to send traffic somewhere, well, now sending an email is really easy, right? Because you just say, I just need to write a quick subject line that gets people to open it. And you just think about what sort of subject lines get you to open things. And then you just give someone a really quick reason to click the link. You don't even have to worry about getting them to the site or listening. Just get them to click on the link and check out what you have. So a quick email reminder, that means a couple of sentences. That means it takes you a minute or two, blast it out to your list. A lot of people don't think to do that. And then, so here's where things get sort of interesting, is that that worked for me when I would publish a blog post once a month, because here is sort of the model for me. He was sort of the old way, and it still works. This is just the old way that I used to do things, right? So once per month blog post. Here's what I would do, is I would write the blog post first. So for example, we had this one talking about being forgotten or passed over with a membership site, right? And it talks about all these different things. And then in the bottom here, well, then now it says that, it's time for you to stop fearing success and membership sites. And I used to have comments open. And the reason why I took off comments is because of Facebook, because people would rather like things or leave comments on Facebook, which is okay. But back when I had comments, and I think we have, if I go to top posts, I think it lists my posts that have the most comments on them. Yeah, here we go. Some of my posts had like, 200 comments, 150. So I mean, tons of fun stuff in here, right? And so how did I get so many comments? Well, at first, it was easy to do because there wasn't a lot of traffic. And then once things started getting a little more crowded, I noticed that I'd have to email back to the same blog post like 3 or 4 times, which seems simple, but this was news to me that I could email for the same thing multiple times. And so what I would do is I would post like one of these blog posts that you're looking at here. I would post about one a month. And then when it was about to come out a couple of days before, I would say, hey, I have an email coming out, or I have a blog post coming out about membership sites. Be on the lookout for it. Or what do you want to know in that blog post? And then when it came out, I would email for that again. And then the next weekend, I would email for that on Saturday and Sunday. The weekend after that, Saturday and Sunday again. And sometimes I would think of like a different reason to go and click, or I would think of If someone left a cool comment, I'd say, hey, look at what, like, Mike Filsane posted on my blog, or Armin Moore or Russell Brunson posted on my blog or something. And then that would sort of send them over to that blog post, and they would go and check me out. But then, well, the arms race, right, is that there was more and more crowding, and Facebook did a lot of crowding. People would rather be on Facebook as opposed to posting on some blog. So what did I do? Well, the way I adapted to that, and here's sort of the method of the madness here, is I would write the whole blog post and I would end with a question. Why? Because I was looking for comments, right? And it's hard to just put out a post and say, okay, leave a comment. Well, what am I leaving a comment about? If you ask a question, you say, well, hey, I'm talking about membership sites. What's holding you back from making a membership site? Now that question is sort of scary. So that's sort of like almost like a rhetorical question, because people are afraid to admit like weakness, and kind of admitting things sort of reinforces the bad behavior and all that sort of stuff. And so I'd say, well, do you have a membership site? Or like, why did you make a membership site? Or if you could make a membership site, what would it be? And I would just ask a question like that. So what I would do is I would sort of do like a pre-blog post, I guess you might call it. And so I would basically I would have the blog post written, but kept it to myself. And what I would do is I would post more or less just the question in the blog post. Okay, so what I would do is, say I had a post about membership sites, and at the end, I would ask, maybe if you could make a membership site about anything, what would it be, right? And I would make a blog post, and I would say, oh, what's happening, Ardegine Skipper, and she's commenting on my blog too, I think. And so I would make a post saying, just what would you make a membership site about? And I would email to that a couple times, get it filled up with blog comments, and then I would go and edit the post with the entire blog post, and then I would email again and then get another wave of comments for that. And I think the reason why that worked is just because, I mean, think about it. If you send someone to a blog post, they have to click, they have to read the whole thing, they have to look at other comments. If I just sent a quick question, there's less barrier to entry for someone leaving a comment, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting, and that worked for a while as well, until I don't know, it felt like more and more of an uphill battle to try to just squeeze out more and more blog comments, because for a while it was great. Sometimes I'd luck out, get 100 comments, 200 comments, and even when things sort of slowed down, as far as everyone would rather comment on Facebook, it was still easy to get 30 blog comments. Why? Well, because I could email and I could get 5 or 10 comments answering the question, right? And then I could email again and then get 5 to 10 more comments answering the question. Then I could put out the blog post and I get 5 or 10 comments in response to the blog post, or from other people's comments that were there. I could email another time as a reminder, and I can get some more comments, and then I could go in and I could reply to some of the comments, and then that would give me another 10 or 20 comments easily. So I could just get, if I wanted to get 20, 30, 50 comments on a blog post, it was easy to do that if I broke down the problem and sort of attacked it in that way. But then after a while, I just sort of started to think, well, what is the point of all this, right? Why am I trying to get all these comments on my blog? And it was good to get sort of that interaction and sort of, get people on my list more engaged and stuff like that. But I don't know, I just kind of felt like, well, what's the point? Especially if things like Facebook and all that are sort of taken over. So that was the old way of doing things. And I want to tell you what the new way is, which is to use social media. Imagine that, right? In this day and age, using Facebook. Who would have thunk it? And so here's sort of what I do. Okay, so basically, I think, let me sort of start at the end and go backwards, because I think, okay, where do I want my my stuff to end up, right? So first we'll say, well, I want my stuff to end up on Facebook. I want my it to end up on Twitter, and then maybe I want it to end up on YouTube or something like that. Okay, so if I think about, there's all these things I could do, but just to make things simple, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, right? And so what's the answer here? Like, if I put out a blog post, I put out a podcast episode, I want it to appear on Facebook, what does that look like, right? What that looks like is it posts to my fan page, it posts to my wall, and then sometimes I'll share it to our group. What does a podcast look like on Twitter? Well, on all these different platforms, the game is different, right? And on Twitter, what we want to do is we want it to kind of be like a part of the rotation, right? The cycle or like the stuff in the news feed or whatever. And then for YouTube, what I want to do is sort of like a quick demo or like a how-to tutorial relating to what I'm talking about. And so like that's pretty much it. I don't mess around too much with like Instagram. I have two posts on LinkedIn because I have like a LinkedIn blog. You can kind of have that in your profile. And I kind of like let me just kind of make a little bit of a detour there because I think this is sort of interesting, is that a lot of different platforms allow you to have a post or like a way to have your own personal blog where you can like post content on there. And so here's, for example, the Warrior Forum, and if I can log in here, they've sort of rearranged. Oh, am I logged in? I thought I was logged in. So, oh, maybe not. Thought. So maybe I can't show the Warrior Forum, but the point is that the Warrior Forum. Okay, cool. I guess I had to log in twice. So the Warrior Forum, they've moved things around, but I think if I view my profile, they used to at least allow you to have a blog. So here's my profile on a forum called the Warrior Forum, and so, and actually something else I wanna mention is the Amazon author page. I don't want to forget that. So basically, if I can find, maybe they moved it. Here we go. So blogs, your blog. Cool, I found it. And so I haven't, to be honest, I haven't posted this in several years. But I mean, I don't need to. I don't want to. Because I just wanted to have somewhat of a presence. And I mean, I might go in and might go like, stick something else on here, but it was nice just to have a presence here, right? And so we have 114 blog entries, and this is just yet one more way for people to find me. And I mean, check that out. I mean, over 1,000 views, over 700 views, 800 views, 800 views. And so just by this being here over time, maybe you'd only got 5, 10 views a day, but over all these months and years, there's so many people viewing it. I don't even know how much traffic that sort of got me. And so just think about that. Think about if you're on some sort of platform, if they allow you to make a blog of your own, why not just post a couple of quick things there? Because um, when someone searches your name in the search engines, I mean, what comes up? Well, hopefully some of your sites, but if there's another famous person with your name or someone else is crowding you out, I mean, this is awesome because it's like my blog, all these are my blog, it's my podcast, it's my podcast again, my Facebook page, my Facebook fan page, Twitter, Google Plus. So the whole front page is me, which is it's good. It's what I want. But what if you didn't have this? Well, Google gives preference to some of these high traffic sites, right? So if Huffington Post or BuzzFeed or something has your name, they're going to rank that. And then Warrior Forum, if this is a high traffic site, well then wouldn't it make sense for me to have some of my stuff on this high traffic site? And a lot of people back in the day, they were super geeking out about this site called Easy Articles. And I mean, this day and age, it's sort of definitely not as effective as it once was. And once again, you look at my my posts there, and that's another thing. I stopped a few years ago posting to this other site, and so what I've sort of noticed is that, well, for whatever reason, Google sort of tanked this site, but then LinkedIn. Google loves LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is one of the top sites. And so in LinkedIn, and I can never find this one. But I go and by the way, if you want to add me on LinkedIn, Google search or LinkedIn search Robert Plank, and add me or make a connection or whatever. So if we go to LinkedIn, I can go to my my profile here, and there's like my articles and activity. And I can't even remember how I got this created in the first place. But basically, there's your article, or like, yeah, here we go. See all activity. And so I got 93 clicks on this post here, and then I got 228 and 30 likes. Whoa, I didn't even know I had comments on this, and 8 comments. So you see, I haven't given up on comments. I'm just kind of using them sparingly. And dang, I didn't even know I had all these comments here. And so, I mean, I posted this on LinkedIn, right? And this was a post that I thought of while walking and kind of typing it on my phone using that Evernote stuff. And then this was actually a post. This is 100% on the phone. So I was walking and I thought of an idea and I wrote that. I thought of an idea, took out the phone, wrote that, and just one sentence at a time. And it was just sort of, I just sort of had that, relaxation, concentration that comes from walking for an hour or so. And then I ended up kind of plugging my site, my book, one of our courses, Podcast Crusher, and then I put this on Facebook. I emailed it to my list a couple of times. And so just think about that. And if you think, oh, I email my list too much, you probably don't. And if you think, oh, well, I have my list is so busy, we'll just put something on like a Saturday. So basically, me and Lance Tamashiro, we email Monday through Friday, right? Every day of the week, pretty much, to whatever offer we have going out, or if we have a webinar or a live stream or something. But then on those weekends, we kind of leave those free. And I think on the weekends, I'll shoot over to a podcast episode or some sort of reminder or some blog post. And so I'm just sort of moving traffic around and double dipping in that way. And so a LinkedIn blog is a really good idea. And I mean, dang, I didn't even know these comments were here actually. And so I'm going to look at some of these comments and I'm going to see if this gives me an idea for something else, because this is like super encouraging, right? And so a LinkedIn blog is just one of those ideas of another place where you should be, right? And so sometimes people talk about guest blog posting or appearing on someone else's podcast. I was just on a podcast an hour ago, and so you should be doing those things to get yourself out there, right? And so, but I mean, let's just focus on these sort of top three things. So how do I make it where? So what I want first is, if I make a blog post, I want it to automatically share on Facebook, because I'm not sure if I don't want it to automatically send an email, because for an email I have to kind of think of a subject line, think of interesting things, but I want to post the things I post on my blog to appear on Facebook. So how do I do that? I use a tool called Zapier, and this auto posts new WordPress blogs onto Facebook. And actually, one thing I want to mention is auto blogs too. All right, so lots of things we're going to pack in today's free Facebook training session. So Zapier.com. Let me show you this one. So Zapier is, and once again, I had a representative from this company appear on my podcast too, because if I'm using a tool, why wouldn't I want to tell people about it, right? So this might be a little advanced, but let me kind of walk you through this. So what I did is I set this up, and I made in Zapier, and I explained this in my book, checklistmindset.com. And in Zapier, you basically can have triggers and you can have actions, right? And so a trigger is they'll keep checking your site, and if you post something new to your site, that's a trigger that goes and does some sort of action, right? I hope that makes sense. And so we do have a trigger, and what we can do is we can say, and I think there's one for like WordPress or something, but I just said, well, I want the trigger to be the RSS feed in my blog, right? And so I said RSS feed, and then I gave it my website URL, right? robertplank.com/feed. And I need to update that and turn it back on. So basically, oops. So what I did is I said, and I went and this might be a little technical, but basically when you have a WordPress blog, you have a site of your own, there is actually, yeah, I'm not gonna, well, yeah, sure, I'll edit that. So Zapier, you can have it monitor your blog feed, or like the list of your latest blog posts, and then it says, okay, well, we see that your latest blog post was, and they give you all this stuff, but they say, well, we see your latest blog post with this interview of yours with Ace Chapman. And so I say, yes, this is my blog, this is the latest post, and then I continue, and then what I say is, once you see a new post on my blog, then what I want you to do, and you and I say, I want you to post it to my Facebook page, right? And you can have it, do anything. Post it to Facebook, post it to Twitter, whatever. You just have to choose it in here. So I said Facebook page, and then I said, I want you to make a new post on my page, and then you log in and connect your account, and then you say, okay, well, which of my fan pages? I want it to be the Robert Plank Show. and I want to, for the message, just put the link in there, and then have the title of the blog post be that, just fill in these things. And I know that's a little techy, but what it ends up doing is that by doing all that, so this is the icon for my blog feed, and this is the icon for Facebook. So now what that did, all those fancy screens we clicked through, when there's a new post on my blog, then it makes a new post on my Facebook fan page. And so if I were to go to facebook.com/Robert Plank Show, then I don't know if it just double posted right now because we were playing with it, but I'll take a second here. Okay, so what it did is 9 hours ago, I was asleep. This was like midnight my time. This blog post went live, and then it made the title right here be the title of that blog post, and it had the body of the post be the link to that blog. And so all that fancy stuff means that if I post to my blog, then within 5 to 15 minutes later, once it checks again, if it sees a new blog entry, then it goes ahead and puts it on my Facebook fan page. Pretty interesting, right? And then I have another Zap, they call it, where this Zap right here means that when a post is made on my Facebook fan page, right, the Robert Plank Show fan page, then it will also post it to my wall and only show it to my internet marketing friends. So here's what that does is, and if this is too much, it doesn't make sense, it's okay, just kind of be along for the ride here. So what we say here is we say that when you add a new post to your fan page, right, and then I go and I connect it to all that, then I say, and when there's a new post on the Robert Plank Show fan page specifically, then what we want to do is post to my own Facebook timeline, and then just say post timeline on my wall, and then same deal, just sort of plug in, put the message that was posted there, put it on as my message. If it linked anywhere, make that the link, and that's pretty much it. So now now let me sort of demonstrate this. So if we say, I can post just text, or I can post a link. So maybe I'll post wpimport.com, right? And I'll say check out our WordPress plugin to bulk import content into your blog, and I'll publish that. And so here it is on my, and this might be a little confusing, this is my fan page, right? See how it's the Robert Plank Show, and check out our WordPress plugin. And then what would happen is I could just go and walk away, and then within a few minutes, Zapier would go and they would see that. And now we don't have a few minutes to wait, so we're just kind of move things along. So if I just make this run here manually, okay, it saw one new thing because I ran it manually, and it did all these different things. And so now, if I go and view my own wall, see, this just now happened, and it copied the thing I posted on my fan page onto my wall. And something I kind of left out because I don't want to get too involved here, but I'll show you this other thing it did. We also have another fan page called Double Agent Marketing, and it also took that content and it also put it on my other fan page. And it even put this live stream on there and all kinds of fun stuff. And so those two things combined. So Zapier, we can have it auto post new blog posts onto Facebook. And then I also, as sort of a bonus, is it also copies post to that fan page onto my wall and other fan pages. And these two, and you can kind of chain these together, right? So Zapier says new blog post, put it on your fan page, and then it says, oh, something new on your fan page, duplicate it to other stuff. And so that's pretty much how the Facebook stuff works. And then sort of another bonus to that is I share interesting links. And so if I see if Business Insider or Gary Vaynerchuk or someone like that has something interesting, then I'll share it onto my fan page, knowing that Zapier will replicate that along. So now we have this mix of content. Now my fan page is not just my latest blog post, it's all these different things. And then I sometimes live stream like we're doing right now. And we have a course that shows you that. That's videosalestactics.com. And you just kind of sit in front of your camera, and you can just kind of be here, or you can switch over to your desktop, or you can turn off your webcam and just show the screen. You could play. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. We're talking right now with Mr. G. Pre-recorded thing. You can do whatever you want, but now we have just a blend of like interesting links, live streams, stuff on my podcast. So now you're populating that, and there's all kinds of stuff sort of flying in there, right? Because on Facebook, you don't want to just post something once and forget for a month. You want things to always be kind of cycling out there. So I mean, a lot of moving parts, and if that's sort of like drinking from a fire hose, that's okay. Just look at sort of what jumps out at you, right? And what's like sort of one thing you can do there. And maybe if you say, well, maybe I should just live stream. That way, I have an easy way to keep posting to my Facebook presence. I mean, good idea, right? But that's how I have it set up. That's how I have it set up, where I have all these interviews where I've interviewed other people from my podcast, or I've written things, and then I go and narrate it for the podcast, and I have these things coming out on a schedule, and then I don't have to worry about the Facebook side of things, right? These things come out on my blog on a schedule, they appear on Facebook. So sort of moving right along, and I probably should just save this for another live stream, but screw it, we're going to just leave it all out on the field today. Twitter, right? So let me show you Twitter. And by the way, this all adds up to a lot of interesting stuff, because we're looking at my stats for my podcast. So not a huge number. I don't have millions and millions of downloads, but I'm starting to get closer to 200,000 views. And what's great about, and our course for this is podcastcrusher.com. And what's great about sort of putting stuff out there and then looking back is you can start to see the patterns, right? And you can start to see where you're at. And so check this out. We can see that my traffic, especially this year, has been slowly and slowly on the uptake. And then if I look at my monthly numbers, I can sort of see, okay, well, I get like a few thousand listens per month. And then August 2016 is when I moved to the interview model. And before this, so everything before August, right? Everything before August was posting once or twice a month, sending emails, doing all that stuff. And then after August is when I moved over into this podcast interview model. And you can see that I moved from, say, 2,000 or so monthly listens on my podcast to now 6,000, 7,000, almost 8,000. And so definitely a boost. And some of that is because, and this is without any email. So imagine if I'd emailed to those as well, but I have important offers to email instead. But anyway, so I get all this traffic now from, if I have a guest on, they promote it because they talk and they, I ask them questions and it makes them look good and it promotes them. So my guests promote, but then there's also that little tidbit of, well, it shows up on Facebook. It shows up in all these different ways. So that's a little bit of a trickle of traffic. That's a little bit of a boost, right? And what's also great about this, and this is Libsyn, and we teach this in Podcast Crusher, is I can see my podcast statistics day to day, right? So I can see that, well, on sort of a slow day, I guess my slowest day recently was in the 70s and 80s, but then, we have some of these spikes. Some days I get 600 listens, 500 listens, and so I can look at these spikes. So yesterday we had 588 listens on the podcast, and we can click on this, and we can just sort of do some detective work and try to figure out why that is. And I can say, okay, well, the reason why this was a spike in traffic is because I interviewed a really cool guy, a coach named Jason Capital, and then he posted about this on his page and he tagged me and he got all these comments, so his reach got a bunch of people to click over to iTunes or click over to my website and listen to that episode of us together. But check this out. I can look at the other things and I can see that, this is the biggest performer of the day because he actively sent a bunch of traffic. But then we see that, well, the episode from I guess the day after and the day before also got a lot of views, again, because those are pretty recent, right? But then even if I look at these other, like all the other traffic that happened today, I can see that, well, still, like, some people listen to like Mike Metzger 3 times, or some people listen to an old membership episode 2 times, or things like that. And so some of these episodes, I mean, look at this. There are 5 pages of this. Some people only listen to these episodes once or maybe twice. But a lot of episodes coming in, that adds up to a lot over time. So I want you to think about that. Is a lot of little things add up to a lot over time, right? But you don't know these numbers. You can't look this up unless you kind of just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall, and then you can go back, look at the patterns, and then figure out, what kind of decisions are you going to make from there. Anyway, Twitter. Are you on Twitter? I hope so. I mean, if what kind of internet marketer are you if you're not on Twitter? I can understand if you're like just an average person not on Twitter, but if you're an internet marketer, you better be on Twitter. So here's what's really cool about Twitter is every time I look on Twitter, and this is going to sound like I'm bragging, but whatever, there are 20 plus notifications, right? So people liked my tweet 2 minutes ago, 4 minutes ago, an hour ago. So every hour, all kinds of things are happening, right? All kinds of stuff. And it's all people liking or retweeting my content, right? Liking or retweeting interviews I had, and sometimes it's the person that was on the interview, which is nice, right? Like Chris Reed was on it and he retweeted his episode. But what's really cool is sometimes people just retweet an episode because I had a really interesting guest and they liked what the guest had to say. So imagine that. And so anyway, so Twitter has this page called analytics. Okay, analytics right here. And then we can see all these different sort of things. We can see how many impressions I have, and you can see sort of month to month, right? And so we can see that like how many people looked at my profile or mentioned me, or so 100,000 impressions last month. So I can again look at this sort of thing and I can say, well, first of all, my impressions grew from 79,000 to 95, and it looks like the month before was at 100,000 impressions. But now I can say, oh yeah, that silly Twitter thing, it didn't feel like it was really worth it, but dang, this episode got 1,200 impressions, and this is an episode that I think we recorded, I mean, maybe like January, if not last year. So pretty interesting, right? And yeah, and 843 impressions, and this was for sure last year. So it's sort of helpful to once again put a bunch of stuff out there and then see what the patterns are. So how do you get these sorts of the sort of traffic from Twitter? Well, you have to post a lot. People always say like the average life of a tweet is 45 minutes, and if you scroll through, oh, cool. Gary Vaynerchuk is talking to Ryan Seacrest. So you can scroll through and you notice that the top, and these are all people that I follow, so you're going to see different people, but like the top sort of influencers, they're posting all the dang time. And you might have noticed that a lot of people, like, for example, like a Tim Ferriss, do you really think that Tim Ferriss logged on 12 minutes ago? Like, I don't think so, right? And then 2 hours ago, 4 hours ago, 12 hours ago. So some of these people will sort of post so much that you're like, how do you even have time to sleep? And so the secret is, and I mean, some of these people, they're there and they're posting, and I'm sure like Tim Ferriss, sometimes it's him posting, but for like your evergreen stuff, for like your past episodes, have it come out on a timer. And that's what I do. So if we look at my my Twitter profile. And by the way, I've been kind of like checking the likes and the comments a little bit. So if you're here, make sure to say hey and cool. What's happening, Mister Kurt Christensen? All right, so let's see. So yep, and James Reynolds. So what's happening, you guys? So I'm looking at like Twitter here, right? And so 23 minutes ago, an hour ago, 2 hours ago. So basically, I post about an hour every time. And so there's this old episode from Mike Sheila. Look at that. I got a heart on it. This other thing with Professor Martin, got a heart on it. This one I hearted, but it's very encouraging once again to me. I can scroll and scroll, and some things don't really get some retweets, but look at that. I have 2 likes on that, and so I can just kind of scroll through and see that I get a lot of engagement. And so this took a little while to get over, right? I used to think that, oh man, I can't be posting to Twitter that much every hour. I'll be sort of spamming. but this is how everyone does things on Twitter. If we look at the top people, they just have all their past stuff coming out. And so how do we do this? Well, I don't have a thing that I don't have Zapier set up to when I have a new post to put it on Twitter. Now, why is that? Because Twitter, as you probably know, it's limited in its length, right? 140 characters, which means letters and numbers. And so with Twitter, things get cut off, right? Like if I have like a long title, it'll get cut off. And the thing about that with Twitter is I want to have hashtags and I want to tag people. And I want to have some of these goofy animated GIFs. Why? Because it's just one of those things that gets attention. And so we have this, one of my early podcast episodes right here. It says backup, clone, and protect your WordPress site. So here's the link to it. And then here is the animated GIF. And this is built into Twitter now. You can just click a button and add a funny animated GIF to sort of get attention. And then I also have these things called hashtags. I hope you know what those are. It basically means you're categorizing your tweet, and someone can click on this, and everybody who posted with hashtag with # WordPress. So someone posted the very first version of WordPress and that kind of stuff. You can see everything that people posted with hashtag WordPress. So we don't just want to automatically put stuff on Twitter for those because we want to have those hashtags, and then we want to at people, right? So when I interview people, and I know this is a lot of stuff we're throwing around, but I'm just kind of seeing what sticks with you, right? So I interview people, and then I look up their Twitter name. So for example, and what you do is just search their name and then the word Twitter. So if I said Kurt Christensen Twitter, and here we go, and you can pretty much tell from the search results. Here we go, internet entrepreneur. Yep, this is for sure Kurt Christensen. So then I would just take his name right there, and if I had a link I was pasting, so let me just grab a link, I guess. So we'd say, all right, his name's actually, here's what I'll do. I'll go and I'll grab the latest. Screw it. I'll just do it for real, right? So Ace Chapman. Here's what I would do: is I would copy the link to this interview with Ace Chapman. I would paste this link in here, and I think that Twitter automatically shortens it once it gets on there. And then I would say, let me grab the title here. So I'll copy the text of that. And so now it's going to be like a little long, and we'll make this just /333. And so it's still too long, even with the shortening. So we'll say, we want to say with Ace Chapman, and I want to say, I don't need to say Portfolio Shark, right? With Ace Chapman. Okay, but now look at this. I have 14 letters and numbers I can still use. So what would I do? What I do is I go Twitter Ace Chapman. Fastest way to find someone's Twitter. Here we go, Ace Chapman at Ace Chapman. But you can't always guarantee that's their name. Someone else might have gotten it first. Just ask at Real Donald Trump. And I can see, okay, it's the same picture. He's talking about marketing stuff. I know it's him. So I just copy his name. I just double click it and get that. And I say, and sometimes if there's room, I'll have their name plus their name, but there's not really room. So I'll kind of have at Ace Chapman. So now we have the title of our blog, right? I've added the person. That way he gets attention for this. And then I also have some room for for podcast. Or not podcast, for hashtags. So I can say hashtag podcast, or I could say hashtag, business tips or business flipping. We don't have room for that, but if we did, I would. So we say hashtag podcast. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is don't just post it as is. We want to post a picture, right? The Associated Press, they don't just say blimp goes down at US Open. They show you a picture of the blimp going down, right? Jerry Seinfeld, right? Like most of these posts are pictures. So we want to do that too. So what we can do is I can either I can grab his picture, and if I didn't have his picture, here's what I do. I click on this GIF, and then we can either kind of click something. We don't want to say ew, but if we want to say like fun, or we want to say like success, or like money, because we're talking about flipping websites. And we'll say, I don't know if I want like Donald Trump or, let's see, we'll just have like, here we go, dollar, here we go. So we'll have like this funny animated GIF, and so we'd post that, and it would sort of stand out, right? People say, oh, there's this person flipping through the money, and then here's the post. So I don't want to be, I'm not feeling in a super goofy mood to do that, so I'll just put his picture. What do I do? Right click, save image as, save it to the desktop as, Ace, so that you know it's him, and then we can just go to Twitter again, and I'll X out this animation, and then instead of the GIF, I'll click on this photos icon, and then there's Mr. Ace, double click, and then cool, that looks a little more professional, right, than some of my other posts on there. And then we just tweet that, and then great, now wherever Mr. Ace Chapman is in the world, it'll pop up on his phone and everything like that, and then maybe he'll like it. And cool, here's even Mr. Lance Tamashiro 11 seconds ago, he's posting as well. And so, like, that's sort of the idea with Twitter, is don't just post a link, at them, hashtag, and then have a picture. And then here's the way to automate it. And again, we're just zooming through things, so there's no time to go through an exact step by step. But what I do is I use this tool called eClincher, and maybe you use like Social Loom for or Meet Edgar or something. But I really like eClincher because you can have this whole queue, and then it recycles. Meaning, I have 343 links that go out on Twitter, right? And so every hour it'll either post like a podcast episode or something like that, and so I made sure to do all the things we talked about, right? We at someone, we hashtag stuff if there's time, and then I put an image in there. And so I'll load up a couple of these. So let me see where I left off on this. So where did I leave off on episode 329, 330, 331? So we don't have episode 332 and onward. So here's what we do, is we say, well, we need to get episode 332, right click and copy link address, and then I'll make a new post. And so this, just to be clear, this is loading up the schedule or the queue of tweets that we'll be kind of putting out. So I right click and I'll paste this. And this sort of is a little bit of a time saver compared to what we showed before, because look what it does. It shortens the URL, it puts the title in there, it puts whatever picture we have on there, so really good stuff. And if we didn't have a picture, we could still click on this GIF link or this image, and in the same way with Twitter, we could kind of put our own image in there, we still could. So I have a little bit of room. Now what am I doing? Well, I need to, first of all, figure out if Richard Lowe is on Twitter. He better be, he's a writer, right? So Richard Lowe Jr. And actually, let me just search regular Richard Lowe. So see, there's other Richard Lowes here. So I was like, well, how do I find the right one? Well, I noticed that I know he's not British. These two are British. This other one isn't talking about anything marketing. And then I know that he's Richard Lowe Jr. So then that's how I found that. But how do I know that it's him and not the other ones? Well, I can click on and I can see that he's a LinkedIn author. And then this is the same picture that I saw on his website and when he called me on Skype. So I'm like, okay, Richard Lowe Jr. is the person that I want. And great, and he just posted a couple days ago. So I want to at him, and I'll say, once again, if there's room, I'll say at Richard Lowe Jr. But then look what happened, ran out of space. So we'll take out the Writing King, and then if I needed more room, I would take out his name and just have his at, but I think we'll have room, and I'll just say like podcast. But I don't want to have every one of my posts be the same old boring hashtag. So we could say, let me do like self-publishing, hashtag self-publishing, hashtag ghostwriting, hashtag LinkedIn, and then I need a little bit of room, so I'll take out the width. Okay, great. Now, once again, we have our tweet for that. We have his picture. We have all that. And so we do this once, and now it's in the rotation forever, right? I save this, and then now we have whatever that number was, like 340 something posts there. And then every now and then I'll do this bulk actions and shuffle order, and that way it'll just post to Facebook randomly. So um, Hillary Hendershot will be the next one that appears, and then Heather Choate, and on and on and on. And then these just post every hour. And then what I do here is I look at my tweets on this sort of right side. I can see how my schedule is, right? So on today, starting at 12:55 a.m., it'll post a little bit about my podcast, and then I filled up other queues like this with my YouTube videos, with my blog posts, with just tons of stuff. So it posts not exactly every hour. I kind of mix it up, and on different days it kind of does like 1:05 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. But basically, there's this queue in eClincher, and then it kind of goes through the queue. But then here's what's unique about eClincher compared to other stuff is once it gets to the end, then it sort of goes back up to the top and starts over. So I know that was like kind of like a lot of stuff to go through, a lot of stuff to show, but eClincher is what we do for that. And then really important when you do this sort of content marketing thing is to sort of tailor your content for each platform, right? And that's why on Twitter we want to at the person that we're interviewing if there's someone else involved in our blog post, and then hashtag stuff, and then sort of customize the title and do all that cool stuff. And if there's a picture, put that on there. And if not, grab a fun animated GIF in order to get attention. That way, it's not just some boring automatic tweet. Because I know you've seen those. You've seen those from other marketers, especially. They make a blog post. It sort of shows up on Twitter. It looks like it's automatically done, and then it copies to Facebook, and it looks like it was automatically copied from Facebook. That's not too cool. What's happened to Mr. Brock Felt? Thanks for watching and for liking. So like we said, Twitter at anyone necessary, right? At sign, hashtag, and then a picture or animated GIF. And then on YouTube, sort of something similar is you need to have a YouTube channel, and you need to post some interesting stuff. And so on YouTube, I'm not much of a vlogger, sit in front of the face type of things. But see, this is a Facebook post I did a few days ago, and I posted it on here. And then if I sort of show you my videos, and then some of these are where I sent personal responses to people. And for me, I mean, I'll just be honest, my YouTube numbers are pretty low. I think I have 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. And what's great about YouTube, and I think I mentioned this in a live stream yesterday, YouTube has some pretty cool analytics, and you can see how far along people go when they watch your stuff. So we can see here that in the past month, people have watched 20,000 minutes worth of my videos. Average watch is 3 minutes, and then I can see the top stuff, right? And so this way I can see 19% of people watch this video and like all these views. So this gives me an idea moving forward of what's the other content I want to keep pumping out on there. So like pretty cool stuff right there. And so for me, like YouTube's kind of like a long game. And so speaking of YouTube, here's the thing about YouTube. Okay, so I like to do quick videos. I like to do demos and stuff like that. And I also have a Zapier for YouTube. So Zapier copies it to Facebook. So if I post to my YouTube channel, it copies it to Facebook. Now here's where Zapier gets interesting, because you can, is Zapier a verb? Can you Zapier something? Well, if so, you can Zapier someone else's YouTube channel. So here's what I'm showing you here is, again, this might not make sense to you, and you might not be able to kind of recreate it, but I just kind of want to show you what we're looking at. So I say I want to have a trigger sort of fire off when there's something new happening on YouTube. Now, what is that? We want to say when there's a new video put out by, this is my username on YouTube, and when that new video comes out, and we can test this and we can see what it shows up, and it shows all this stuff. But basically the thing to look, I mean, we kind of look around all this code, we look for something familiar, right? What's familiar is this. So I made this video about Zapier here, so we know that it grabbed from the right place. And then we say, well, Now that's the trigger. What's the action it's going to take? It's going to create a new post on my fan page, and then it will plug in all the stuff. It'll say, we'll put the description of the YouTube video as the description, or as the post on Facebook, and then it will make the link on that Facebook post the link back to my YouTube video, right? So sort of interesting there. And once again, as we said, these sort of get stacked, right? So I post on my YouTube, it shows up on my fan page, and this other Zap, Robert Plank show update, this replicates that to my other fan pages. And then also I sort of fill up a separate queue for YouTube stuff in eClincher. But here's where it gets interesting, is that you don't have to just stick to your own YouTube channel, right? You can say, well, I want to look at Lance Tomashiro's YouTube channel, right? I want to look at Brock Felt's YouTube channel. I want to look at Kurt Christensen's YouTube channel. And we can say, well, when there's a new YouTube video for channel Lance Tomashiro. So all you have to do is just find someone interesting on YouTube, get their username, and then it'll just keep checking their YouTube channel, and then it'll post the YouTube code and like the link to their YouTube on your Facebook page. Now here's where it gets sort of interesting. This is where I threw in the auto blogging, because honestly I haven't looked at this particular site in 2 or 3 months, so I don't even know if this is still going or not, to be honest. So there's this blog here, and what we have is there's this post here that says you need a brand for a Fiverr business, and yeah, I don't even know whose this is.
Building a business, create a web of it.
So this video, I've never seen this video before. This is coming from Fiverr itself. Okay, so how the heck is it that I have a blog and I don't even know what the heck is being posted to it? And I can see, oh, there's all this Fiverr stuff, but then see, there says how to use this this audio editing software. There's drum samples. There is testing different equipment. These guys have some sort of weekly show. And then if I look on the sidebar here, right, look at the dates. Oh, geez. So on January 9th, there was a bunch of crazy stuff. But then, I mean, every few days, even though I haven't looked at this site since last year, it's posting just like all this interesting stuff. And I think, and so if I go to like earlier stuff, I was trying to look for some like build a weeks, but I think Fiverr sort of took over my blog here. And so I might need to sort of rearrange different things here, but basically this is called auto blogging. And what this is Zapier is monitoring lots of different YouTube channels and looking for like certain keywords and stuff like that. And it's just filling up this blog with content. And so let me sort of show you that part of things. So here's what it is I look for, and this Zap is off, but I think this is, well, I'll show you anyway though. So this looks at, where is it? It looks at Mr. Lance Tomashiro's blog, and I'll show you what that looks like, right? So Mr. Lance Tomashiro, he has an interview podcast like me, but then sometimes he'll post this starting from scratch series, and he'll make an audio recording talking about Fiverr and some stuff like that. And so what I wanted to do is I said, well, I want to monitor Lance Tomashiro's blog, but if he ever makes a post and in his post he uses the word Fiverr, Fiverr, I want to blog about that, right? And so that's what this does. It looks at his blog feed is what it's called. And then we say we're going to filter, and we're only going to continue if the title, see this? If the title of his blog contains the word Fiverr. Or maybe he named it something weird, but at least if he mentioned the word Fiverr in the blog post itself, then we're going to keep on doing this. And then what we're going to keep on doing is we'll go to our WordPress site, and I have it log in and all that, and I have it create a post. And here we go. And we say create a post on that website, and then the template, and we can kind of do anything we want. But I said, well, I want to put in the text Lance Tamashiro show and then the title of whatever post he had there, and then have a link back to that. Or yeah, we have a link back to that. And we could kind of dump in like his whole description or whatever, but I'm just like, for now, we'll keep it simple. We'll have a link back to that. And so I just have a few zaps, they call it, of all these different things. So it's looking at Bill DeWeese's YouTube. So if I edit that, we can see that if this super cool dude named Bill DeWeese, his YouTube username is voiceover expert. And let me kind of show you how I did that. So we go to YouTube, and then Bill DeWeese, he's one of the top guys in this voiceover stuff. We work with him. I kind of click on his name, and you see how in this address bar, there's a YouTube user voiceover expert. That part is his username. So again, we could have this tool called Zapier, which is free, and then if you start using it a bunch, you can pay for it to kind of scale that. But so this dude Bill DeWeese, he posts on YouTube pretty frequently, right? Like maybe like once or twice a week, and gets tons and tons of views. So what if I wanted to basically every time Bill DeWeese made a post, we want to put that video on our blog, but we don't want to post every single thing he does. So we could say, if we kind of look at his titles and stuff like this, right? And we can see, well, he uses the term voiceover or VO or like equipment. So what I could do is I could say, only continue if the title contains the word equipment. And then now it's not going to post every single thing he puts out, but if he uses, and I saw it somewhere in here somewhere, equipment, right? What equipment should I start a voice talent with? So it wouldn't post all of his stuff, but it would just post this one thing. Or we could say, if he says microphone, right? So we could say, if the title contains equipment, or if the title contains microphone. And if we do all that, then it'll continue, and once again it'll go to our WordPress site, it'll create a new post, and then it'll put in the title, and I could say, you know, from Bill DeWeese, title, put in the URL. And what's great about WordPress and all this sort of stuff is by placing the YouTube link on your blog post, WordPress will just kind of draw that box, draw that video on there right there, and then we'll make the status published. So this is also sort of cool, right? You could have your WordPress blog kind of fill up all these sort of draft posts, and you can go in, find the draft, edit it to customize it, and post it. But I just say, well, we'll just post it as is. So I just have all these different sort of sources of content, and so there's so yeah, so I think I think that it was like Fiverr didn't update their YouTube channel super often, so I think that's why I started doing this, but now I think I'm going to have to maybe filter that out a little bit. But anytime Fiverr, the company Fiverr, posts something on their YouTube channel, let me sort of check that out for a second, and then we'll move on. So their username is Fiverr HQ. So if I go to youtube.com/Fiverr HQ, and we look at their videos to kind of get an idea. So I mean, yeah, they're starting to up their game as far as posting stuff, but whenever Fiverr posts a new video on that particular blog, it will go ahead and post that. So just by having a few of those zaps in place, and by filtering some of that out, you can end up with a blog that just kind of updates on its own every week or so, and that's sort of an interesting sort of thing to add to your arsenal there. We can kind of just say, if I post on my own YouTube, put it on Facebook, or we could say, let me sort of monitor 5 or 6 YouTube channels, and then add sort of some kind of keyword filter, and then auto post to a blog. And I mean, I don't think I have that blog hooked up to Zapier and all the social media stuff, but I mean, now we're talking about some sort of, you know, now things are sort of piling up, right? Now we got to have that snowball effect where we just do a couple of steps, we have a few things we add to our routine, and now we have the Facebook posts coming out and the tweets coming out and all that fun stuff, and then you can start double dipping. So here's what I want to show you. One of the last things I want to show you as far as double dipping. If you have even one book on Amazon, you should register at authorcentral.amazon.com. And here's why. Because you can go to this books tab, and you can claim all the books that are yours. And you can go to this customer reviews and you can look at your newest reviews if anything needs replying. And I look at this, and when I get from this, it says I need to do some newer promotions on my books to get some new reviews if my most recent review was December. But then what you also have is sort of your own profile. Remember when we kind of started this, I said that, well, LinkedIn gives you a profile, Warrior Forum gives you a profile, different places like that. And so you can put in your bio, and I don't think I added a bio yet, but you can add your different blog feeds. And once again, I feel like I keep saying this, but like this is sort of techy, but I just kind of want to show you the things on the surface to kind of give you an idea of what's possible. Because what we can do is I can click on add blog, and we can add in the RSS feed or the list of our latest blog posts, right? And so I have two blogs on this. One is for my site, and one is for sort of a podcast I do for fun. And by doing this, here's what happens is so basically if someone goes to one of my books is checklistmindset.com. Let's say someone's looking at one of my books, right, and they can see like the reviews and all that sort of stuff, and then they click on my name. Now usually if you click on someone's name on Amazon, it just kind of makes a new search of their name. But if you go to this authorcentral.amazon.com, you can customize this. And because I claimed my books, it sort of lists it in a gallery kind of thing here. And then if we go over here to the author updates, so basically this all happens automatically. So 10 hours ago, it noticed, just like how Zapier notices things, it noticed that I posted to my blog, or it came out on a schedule. And so this is yet another way. Remember how we talked about if someone searches your name, what comes up? If someone searches Kurt Christensen just on his name, I mean, what sort of stuff comes up? Hopefully, like all this stuff about stock trading, which is like sort of on his brand, right? And so, and also like one of our other favorite people is Charles Runnels. And so, what comes up? Well, his websites, his Twitter, and somewhere on here, and like times he's in the news, and somewhere. So on page 2 is his Amazon author page. So Google seems to really like Amazon author pages. You go to his author page. There's a picture of him. You can follow him, sort of like on Facebook. And same thing with him, right? It monitors his blogs, and then it sort of makes it easy so that if people want to see what he's up to, or if they're just searching him, and Amazon is sort of the path they take to end up finding him, well then there you go. Just because he hooked that up and he said, "Hey, Amazon Author Central page, please monitor my blog. Please monitor the RSS feed of my blog," to use sort of a fancy nerdy technical term. And so that's just another sort of way that we can take advantage of some of that extra link juice. And it just, I mean, a lot of it, I mean, it's awkward at first, but if you just have these sort of things linked together, then I think that you'll have a lot of fun. So one thing I want to show you before we sign off, and that's our WP import plugin, and that's what we're promoting this week. And I want to show this to you. It's only $7, and it's really cool how much time it saves you. So this is a WordPress plugin called WP Import, and to grab it, you can follow along and go to WPImport.com. That's WPImport.com. So here's what it looks like. And so what we can do, if I get my screen just right here, what we can do is if you say you have like 10, 20, 30, 100 things you want to add to your blog, you can put them all in individual text files, zip them all up, and then use this tool to upload them all to your site. And then you can say, well, these are all some of my old articles, and I want to start posting. I want them to all appear as if they came out last year, and they came out every 7 days, and they all came out around 6 a.m. On my blog's time zone, and I want to put them all in this sort of category. Well, that's how you could do that. And so you can say, well, I want them to be posts or draft posts to fix later. I want comments on or off, and so you can customize this sort of any way you want. Click a button, and then all these posts, they either appear on your blog, or they appear as if they were posted a while ago, or you can set things in the future, and then you can just have all these different posts that are scheduled ahead of time. So think about that. You have all these posts scheduled ahead of time, and then when you make these posts, they'll show up on Facebook. You can add them to your Twitter eClincher queue. They'll show up on your Amazon author page. So you get all set up at once, and then it pays off over and over again. And there's more than one way to get content on your blog. For example, let's say that you didn't have anything already written, but you wanted to just like bang out a bunch of quick stuff. You could say, instead of uploading here, I want to enter my stuff manually, and then I'll go ahead and continue there. Whoops. I want to enter post manually. And here's what happens is it says, okay, what do you want the title to be? And then what do you want to have in the text? So here's what you could do is, well, actually, I want to go back and I want to make this come out starting today. And I want a new article every 2 weeks. Because think about this too. What if you scheduled some stuff every now and then? And then you sort of filled in the gaps with more interesting stuff you found ahead of time. And then we said, I'll go on YouTube and I'll find some interesting stuff about WordPress, and I'll look at some stuff that came out this month about WordPress, right? So creating a real estate website, HTTPS, WordPress 4.8. So there we go. Those are 3 ideas for lists right there. And so what we can do, and once again, if you don't know about YouTube, is that YouTube wants content to be shared. So any YouTube video, you can go click on this share and grab this link, put this on your blog, and it will sort of put this video player on your blog, and people love it because it gets traffic back to them. So we can say how to create a real estate website with WordPress. All right. So I'll copy this. I'll go back to my page here.
Hey everybody, aren't you?
And by the way, it helps to right click and mute a tab if you're trying to show some fun stuff. So I'll enter my stuff coming out once every 2 weeks. And we'll say that what I want to come out today on this blog is how to create a real estate website. And we'll kind of make it a little bit unique in WordPress, updated for 2017. And then we'll just kind of right click, we'll select that, right click and copy that YouTube link, put it on there. All right, June 29th. So we already have the real estate website. June 29th, let's talk about HTTPS. So I'll right click and copy that. And then I'll right click and put that, how to move. See, I don't like how this is worded. So how about we say how to move a WordPress site from HTTP to HTTPS. And then we'll grab that link there, and then we'll paste this on here. So I'm hoping that you realize that like by having this tool, you don't have to go and like add a post and add a post. You can just do this all in one screen. So then we have that taken care of. And then what's new in WordPress 4.8 update? I'll copy that. I'll put the title there, WordPress 4.8. Check out what's new. And we will share, or maybe I'll say like check out all the new features, and paste that. And I mean, and we could, we could put whatever text you want all around here, but I'll just kind of have these 3 YouTube links, and then I'll just post those. And here we go. So now we have this one post that's live, and these other 2 will be scheduled, will come out June 29th, July 13th. And if we view the site, fingers crossed here, awesome. So now we see how to create a real estate website in WordPress. We have this, and then I have this signature link on all my posts. And so great. So now we kind of have like the best of all worlds, right? We can have this auto blogging stuff. We can go and find interesting links, and this WP import tool helps you to make it happen. So one final thing about WP import, then we'll be signing off here. So something else that you can do in WP import is there's a search capability. This searches our database of content up in the cloud. We can say, if I want to talk about WordPress, well, these are all articles, and I can kind of hover over these, and I can see, and this is all stuff that I can kind of rearrange these, and I can say, I'll uncheck a few of these. All right, so out of these 10 results, I'll choose these 4. Okay, so we'll talk about WordPress marketing, and I'll kind of, so I think these are a little similar. Okay, so we have just these like different sort of topics here. Okay, so we have like 3 posts on WordPress, and then I'll say, well, let me start posting it tomorrow, and I'll post it every, say, 8 days, any time of day. Okay, so I've kind of chosen these, and I could either just have these scheduled now, or I'll preview these to see what comes up. And now we say, all right, so your small business and WordPress. So talking about WordPress as a blogging tool. Oops, there's a typo, so I'll kind of fix that. And I mean, I could grab a YouTube video and put it in here, right? And then we have benefits of creating a site on WordPress. Actually, I'll grab a YouTube video for these. So we'll say WordPress tutorial and filter this month. And let's see, for beginners, all right, looks good to me. And what are these other ones talking about? Small business, security. All right, WordPress security. We'll grab a video about that. 7 security tips, sure thing. All right, so once again, grab the embed link and put this on WordPress security, and then grab the beginner tutorial and then put this on, I guess, the benefits one. And then we will schedule those, and there's an undo feature, so if you say, oh, I made a mistake, you can undo that. But now moving forward, we'll check one of these out. So this is scheduled, this is not yet live, and I'm not, oh, this is one of the ones without a video, but one of the ones with a video. This one's coming out late June. So now we have a video that we grabbed off YouTube, and then this article that we grabbed off of when we did our quick search, and then this other marketing thing. Same thing. We have this article that you just saw. All I typed in was the word WordPress, and then this came up as one of the options. I made sure to check the box, say yes, I want this article in my rotation, and then I grabbed a YouTube and kind of made it a little bit unique there. And so I know like I said, for like 10, 20 times, we threw out a lot of stuff. Maybe your head is sort of spinning there, and that's okay. But just that's sort of my thought process as far as like, what do I want? Where do I want it? Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and then sort of working backwards, like what's the source of my content? So I need to think of like ways to create the content in the first place, and then plug in some of these tools. That way, once I make the content and all that, then I know that I get the best bang for my buck, right? I post on a blog, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's on Amazon Author Central, and then I can just kind of go and kind of ramp up, and then post more often or do more things to get more of that sort of traction. And so I want you to think about that as far as if you're kind of looking at this content marketing thing sort of envious, saying like, man, how do some of these people put out all this content? Well, they have sort of a system, and they have all these tools that saves them a lot of time. I mean, eClincher saves me so much time. Zapier saves me so much time. Those are the big ones. And then there's all kinds of double dipping involved, right? Like you saw that my podcast stats kind of get helped out, my blog stats get helped out, and all this other social media stuff. And so as we sign off here, I want to make sure that you have the address. That's wpimport.com. That's what I showed you at the end, and there's another demo on this page here. But basically, what we can do is we can either upload a zip file full of articles, or schedule a bunch of stuff at once, drafts, pages, posts, backdated, future dripped, spaced out any way that you want, categorize it any way that you want. And even if you don't have content, you can even search a keyword. Like in this thing, we searched guitar, and then you can just kind of check the boxes for what you want, drag and rearrange, and then get your blogs set up the way that you want. Get that content marketing to work for you to, build yourself as an authority, get that traffic, and then get back to what's fun for you. Get back to the making money stuff, now that the content marketing is on 100% autopilot. So anyway, that's all from me. I'm Robert Plank, and my website, I'll put it in the screen here. My website is wpimport.com. So make sure you go right there now to wpimport.com. I'm Robert Plank. Nice talking to you. I hope you had fun, and I'll